Uh, Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
First of all, I am thanking Mr. Parmeshwaran for Zantic Knowledge Management, also Rekha Joshi, who really accommodated for this lecture today on a very auspicious day, I can say Teachers' Day. Welcome to all. We will start. Welcome. A teacher's purpose is not to create students in his own image, but to develop students who can create their own image. Happy Teachers' Day to all the participants. And one Sanskrit shloka I am just putting. It's not very common. There are many common like Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, and these things. Here, this is na guror adhikam tattvam, na guror adhikam tapaha. Tattvajnanat param nasti tasmai shri gurave namaha. There is nothing superior to knowledge of truth, nothing higher than the truth, and there is nothing purifying austerity better than truth. So salutations to the Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha Harihi Om. So anybody can can be Guru. Today I can see that kid who is teaching a lot of things. There is a lot to learn from that kids regarding the soft skills and the technology for the presentation or how to make a good presentation and all. So everybody is a guru in this world in some way or the other, whether it's a junior, senior, relative, friends, and all. So, thank you. This is the agenda. We will just start with introduction to good manufacturing practice, which is called GMP. Application of GMP in food and pharma as per ISO standards. First, we will cover that. Then, application of GMP in food and pharma as per US FDA 21 CFR, which is directly derived from the WHO guidelines for the GMP. So what is a good manufacturing practice? Good manufacturing practice, there are some practices or the guidelines required from an organization to conform to the guidelines or the rules or we can say standards, some authorities which we call authority that control the authorization and licensing of the manufacture and sale of. There both is there. Like to manufacture also you have to get a license or you have to register, and to sell for the international market or the domestic market you have to register with that authorities and agencies. This GMP is applicable for food and beverages, cosmetics and perfumery, all pharmaceutical product, dietary supplements, medical devices. Authorities are agencies that are providing GMP guidelines. The topmost is WHO, World Health Organization. Then comes FDA, Food and Drug Administration. And see, World Health Organization, I can say the parent or the mother organization, from which other things have derived all those principles or guidelines or standards. In particular, FDA, it is a 21 CFR for the GMP. Then European Union, then MHRA, which is from UK, that is Medicines and Healthcare Product Regulatory Agency. CDSCO for in India. FSSAI is also there, Food Safety and Standard Authority of India. Then ICH, which is less commonly known, International Council for Harmonization. And then PDA, Parental Drug Association. There is another one, Global Force for Harmonization. Other also is there, GFP. And all national and local food and drug control authorities in all the countries and the continents. So what is good manufacturing practice? These are all some guidelines provide minimum requirements. They provide minimum requirements like ISO standard says. It's a guideline and an organization should meet the minimum requirements. An organization, whether it's a manufacturer, whether it is a warehouse, whether it's a supply chain or a distributor, whoever it is, he must assure that products are consistently high in quality from batch to batch for their intended use. Okay. Then the rules that govern each industry may differ significantly. It may be a small scale industry, it may be medium scale, it may be direct parentals, it may be food which is long lasting, which may be have to be consumed within the number of days preferred, like the expiry date and all. However, this main purpose is to always prevent harm from occurring to the end user. That means there are two things. One, there should be no hazard for health and life. So that is the purpose of the GMP implementation in an organization. What does GMP talk about? First and foremost is free from contamination. Anything you consume, eat, drink, or take an injection, it should be free from contamination to ensure that functions that food or the medicine functions according to the prescription or the requirement of a body or the system or anatomy and physiology of the person or any required guidance, food guidance. Next is free from contamination, cross contamination. What is this cross contamination? It is mix of look-alike product. It may be look like even packaging, it may be a product, it may be a label, and mostly it's wrong labeling. When the label is wrong on the product, different product, then that is really dangerous for a life, a patient's safety. Then consistent in its manufacture. So consistent of quality in its manufacture. I can say consistent of quality in its manufacture, both product and process quality. The manufacturer has been well documented. What GMP says, whatever you do, you have to write it. If you don't write it, you have not done it. And that has to have traceability. Another, these are the whatever the shown in bold and capitals and also in bold. It is very key words, though all the one listed here are very, very important. And they are all supporting, of course. Free from contamination, cross contamination, documentation, and traceability. These are all the four important key points, key words I can say in GMP. Traceability means right from the raw material to its end use or the life cycle. So that is the traceability required. And for these to perform, the personnel are to be well trained in GMP practices, have implementation. The product has been checked for quality more than just at the end phase. This means there is a concept called stage-wise inspection. For any product to come out with good quality or the intended quality, you have to have all inputs. All of you know that there is a process involves input, process and outputs. I will come to that later. Anyway, right from the receiving or the specification, this thing, everything has to be checked more than one time or one more than one person, and that has to be cleared. Cleared means either to clear for the next stage of its usage, or to stop at this stage if it is not meeting the specification. So this is called not at just the end phase, right from the beginning, and stage-wise inspection, so that you will get good product quality ultimately at the end of the process. So GMP is typically ensured through effective use of quality management system. So quality management system is the mother of all, like ISO 9001, 2000. Of course, there are a lot of things to in a GMP. And if an organization has a quality management system, this GMP can be a part of it to ensure that all the regulatory and statutory requirement, and also the field, that is sector, pharmaceutical and food sector. Now let us come to the source of contamination in food and pharma. Most common types, all of you may be aware it. There is a physical contamination, example fiber material, it may be particles, it may be chips from your machine equipment, or any other foreign material, solid material. Then the chemical contamination, it may be vapor, gases, moisture, molecules, it may be grease, oil, anything like a chemical contamination. And then biological contamination, fungus, bacteria, virus. And biological contamination, mostly whenever person is involved in any manufacturing process or the packing process or assembly process, it comes from biological contamination, is mostly from the human beings or any other organisms. Now what sources of contamination we looked at, like from raw material and any ingredients, machinery and utensils, employees and visitors, storage, transportation, pests, all pests, flying insect, crawling insect, whatever you call it, material handling, both equipment as the handling type, packaging materials, it's a material packaging, it may be plastic, glass, or any other packing material. Plant structure and environment. Plant structure environment means open windows or leaking roofs, so many things. Then you, in any process in pharma or food, you will be using water, ice, and steam. That has to be of good quality. Any contamination can happen from this source also, and air and gas. So these are all the sources of contamination in food and pharma. This is common in food and pharma. Now let us look at some GMP pictures. So GMP pictures, the first one is, I am going from left top to the clockwise. See, there the one lady is noting down something. That means whatever the process parameters you have to monitor. That is one of the elements of the GMP. Second one is it is in the records room or the documentation room or the library or the documentation room where you will be referring to the standards to move into process. Third one is your storage, where the food is either it may be a raw material or it may be a finished goods. It has to be very clean, and there will be issuing authorities. Only the required quantity will be issued. Account will be kept on that. Now you look at the fourth picture. It is about the finished products goods inspection, especially the label, whether it is right label or not. Anything is missing, and also to have FIFO, FIFO. Nowadays there is a barcoding system and all. Manual label is almost gone, but still FIFO has to be maintained. First in, first out in case of food and drugs. Now coming to the picture here, first picture here, it is the work instructions of the you who are working in a laboratory or testing this thing. Work instruction has to be present, visible in front of the working instruments or the stations. Second one is how you are handling the goods on the production line. Third one is it is a gowning or the usage of PPE. You can see the head cam, you can see nose mask, hand gloves, full gown. If you look at the sleeve, it is a full sleeve which is elastic. It is not with the button, so that you cannot pull it back. Also, your sleeve has to be cut. Hair is the most contaminating material in food and pharma. Which is not at all acceptable as far as GMP certification is concerned or GMP recognition is concerned. Third, next picture also, how the people are working in the process. Now, in GMP, there is something called clean room. Clean room means controlled atmosphere, temperature, airflow, this contamination-free room. So just look at people are walking in the near the entrance of the clean room with proper shoes, proper gowning and all. Next, when you are going to the clean room, it is the how you see the flooring and the walls. Walls are epoxy painted or some resin painted. Floor is epoxy coated or polyurethane coated or base material, and which is they normally prefer blue, because any dust or something you can see it on this color. That is the reason of pharmaceutical following this blue thing. Even in gold refinery also you will see this high dark blue flooring also, to ensure that even a smallest particle is visible contamination. And if you see the down picture, this is how you entering the room. You will be changing the clothes, that is you will be covering the clean room gowning. You will be entering with the cross. There is a crossover bench. You have to wear that and then crossover, then enter into the clean room. And there will be a mirror always. Are you ready? So once you ensure that there will be work instruction in picture stick. Once you ensure that you are ready, then only you are allowed to clean room. Then the first picture is clean room monitoring. It may be filter, it may be temperature, it may be humidity at various places. So this is monitoring. So clean room is of very important in pharma and in some food industries also, and also in testing and calibration laboratories. This clean room concept is very important. Now coming to the food processing GMP issues, the pictures are self-explanatory. People are wearing gowning for the mouth, nose, then head, hands, everything. And you can see the shine of the utensils or the equipments which you are using for the food pharma. That has to be very clean. And you look at the process chain, how it is aligned from one process to the another, to know the clear movement of the things, how it is divided into different lines, two different lines, or it is going into the one line for a different purpose of purposing. So these are all the best GMP pictures which one can think of in food industry. Now I will be going through one small video. You can just have a look at. Sorry if the no audio is. Oh, that was about the video. Now, uh, I will come to the few benefits of the GMP in food and pharma. Improve organization management capabilities in product quality, safety assurance, and enable employees to develop good production operational habits. As it's told in the video, every employee has to do the work first time right, and every time he performs the work. Reduce safety risk in product quality and safety through contamination. Then timely detect production and management problems, reduce cost. This here FMEA, risk assessment, all these things are coming into the picture. Better understand and comply with the relevant laws and regulations, statutory and legislative or regulatory compliance, enhance the international credibility and public image, increase customers' long-term confidence in the enterprises. Over and above this, last but not the least, safeguard people's health and safe life, I can say. So this is the key benefits of GMP and food pharma. Now, let us go to the ISO systems and standards, which is important or which talks about GMP in food industry or pharmaceutical industry. All of you know what is ISO, that is International Standard for Organization for Standardization. And what is a standard? Standard means it is a document having one number and the publication year. It has containing practical information and best practices as a guidelines. Let's say international standards, let us say, I will come to that. It will also have specifications, but normally it is a guideline. It often describes agreed way of doing things or solution to a global problem, that is internationally acceptable products with various specifications, made uniformity, make products compatible so that they fit and work well with each other, identify safety issues of products and services. For example, if you assemble one unit, you may need hundreds of parts which is coming from different countries. It may be from Europe, it may be from Saudi, it may be from Australia. So all has to be compatible. So that's why here the ISO harmonization is international standard harmonization is required here. Then also ISO shares good ideas and solutions with respect to the standards so that your business, your knowledge, your skill will keep growing. ISOs today, some few figures, around 23,271 standards are published, 164 countries representing in the ISO into the organization. ISO head office is in Geneva, Switzerland. Around 790 technical committees, because various standards have different technical committees related to their expertise, and also considering the cross-functional meeting, considering supplier, the process owner and the customer. So considering this, these technical committees are formed. And if you look into ISO standards, there are four major categories. One is management system standards like QMS, that is quality management system, EMS, environmental management, then occupation health and safety management, IT security. These are all system standards. Then comes to product standards. So what are the specific product? There are also standards for products like it may be a pharmaceutical vial, ampule, or it may be a medical device and something. There could be standards. And testing standards. There are also testing standards in ISO, which is acceptable worldwide. Other standards, it may be due to in a financial, it may be related to currency, or it may be related to normal paper and all. So other standards, we can, this is broadly four categories. For food and pharma, which are the standards applicable? For example, ISO 22000 2018 version, that is called Food Safety Management System. This is FSMS in short. ISO 1537A 2017, this is a QMS plus good manufacturing practice. Earlier you have seen that there was a sentence that GMP has to be ensured through a quality management system. So QMS and GMP go hand in hand. Next one is ISO 9000 2015 quality management system. This is the mother of all systems, management systems here. Then 13485 2016 medical devices QMS. Here you can see again medical devices quality management system for regulatory purposes. Then there is 14464 2015. This is about clean room standards. Then also ISO IEC 17025, that is competence of testing and calibration laboratories. Why it is included here? Although this for food testing, you may need specified stipulated conditions of GMP. So these are all the standards which is related to GMP. So any process approach, any standard, any ISO standards talk about the process first approach. Especially in 2015, the organization has started revising the standards and they made common high level structure. It is called HLS. In that, process approach and risk management, these two are emphasized and there are about 10 clauses in each of the standards. Whatever the standards which has been revised after 2015 has 10 clauses that I will come to that, and it talks about the process approach. Activities here is an input, there is a process, activity is a process, there is an output. So there's sources of input and the receivers of outputs. So that means right from the sources of input to the receivers of the outputs and until its use, that is life cycle of the product. So you need to establish GMP in all the processes, main processes, sub processes, along with the documentation and traceability. So I'm not talking about any other standard except which is related to GMP. So there may be operational controls, there may be some monitoring, evaluation in various other processes, but it will be focus is on GMP here. So now another concept, plan, do, check and act. This is PDCA in FSMS. So as I told you earlier, there are 10 clauses. First 3 clauses, number 1, 2, 3 talks about introduction, scope and terms and definitions. The actual process starts from 4, 5, 6, 7, which is a planning process. Operations is the do stage. Performance evaluation, that is monitoring, measurement and analysis. This is called performance. This is the check, which talks about the clause number 9. And finally, improvement. Improvement, continual improvement. There are two terms, continual and continuous. Continual is you make some improvement, stabilizes, sustain it, then go to the next stage. Continuous improvement, okay, you are continuously improving. Sometimes for at say mid stage, something may happen, then you will not be able to trace what has happened. It might happen at stage 1 or stage 3, difficult. That's why continual improvement stage by stage is recommended as from the ISO standard. Here for the food safety management system in class number 8, they are PRPs, prerequisite programs. It may be GMP, it may be GAP, GVP, that I will come to later. Then traceability system, emergency preparedness. To do this hazard analysis in food safety management system, hazard analysis, and that is called HACCP, another concept here in the food, which is directly has a go hand in hand with GMP. Hazard analysis and critical control point, I will come to that later. Then validation of control measures, which is again GMP term. Hazard control plan, HACCP, is verification of planning, that is inspection, auditing, whether whatever the measures and the controls is implemented or working consistently or not. Then like this PDCA cycle, again do implementation of this plan, whatever you plan here, then control of monitoring, then go to the check stage where you will have various analytical process, measurement analysis, root cause analysis, then taking corrective actions in the check stage and improve. You encash upon whatever the drawbacks or the shortfalls found in their processes or the process quality or the product quality. So that's again, it is a chain. PDCA is a continuous 360-degree chain. And this PDCA is not just related to one process. In every process, production process, store warehousing process, whether it is a maintenance process, everywhere you have this PDCA cycle. And in every class of ISO, you need to look at PDCA with two approaches. One is risk assessment, mainly is risk assessment. Then FSMS principle according to ISO 22000. Here, food safety is related to the presence of food safety hazards. It may be a hazard, may be of various types. I will come to that again later. At the time of consumption, intake by the consumer, so that the consumer has to get the pure product until he puts it into his mouth or opens it on the table, rather I can say. Food safety standards can occur at any stage of food chain. It may be at from the raw materials, it may be at the manufacturing, it may be from the packaging material or during the packaging, or it may be during transportation. Therefore, every control is required. Full supply chain management, throughout the supply chain management, I can say food chain, from manufacturing to or raw material to the final product, and until it is consumption. Food safety is ensured through combined efforts of all the parties. That means it's always a cross-functional team. Any process needs 5 aspects. One is input, the process, outputs, and then controlling one is monitoring, and another the resources. So these are all the 5 elements when the process is involved. So basically, this is interactive communication, system management, prerequisite programs. It's called PRP. Then HACCP, hazard analysis and critical control point. Again, I am coming to that picture. I have already seen this. What are the sources of contamination? Physical, chemical, biological, and various sources. Now, what are the clauses in FSMS 22000? First, it is forward introduction about the ISO standard and technical committees and all. The standards scope, what is the scope of this FSMS, and it defines clearly how an organization, according to its nature of operation or the number of people or the area, they have to define the scope. Then normative references or other references like ISO 9000, 14000, 45,000, which is applicable to the which is related to this standard. Then terms and definitions related to 22,000. Then fourth clause, this is the new clause in the 2015 structure. It started from 2015. Context of the organization. Context of the organization is nothing but to describe that what is the organization exists for and what is its manufacturing, how it takes care of risks and opportunities, how it takes care of all interested parties. It may be internally interested parties, it may be externally interested parties. Internal may be employees, basically or external maybe near neighbors, regulatory body and other things, and also internal and external issues also. Apart from the interested parties, there are internal and external issues. So that deals about the context of the organization. Then talks about leadership. Leadership has to ensure it has it frames a policy, it communicates the policy throughout the organization, it sets up objectives which is aligned with the quality policy, then they monitors it, then they define the responsibility, authority, roles and responsibilities of all the people at all levels, and also trains them into that induction training and all. So these are all the things which leadership has to ensure, and he has to monitor. There is a process called internal audits. So management has to keep track with the internal audits and any other activities through management review. There is a class called management review where the process owners will be discussing according to how the quality management system or the GMP system is improving the organization's business or the activities again. Then the support process. Support is basically human supports or any other infrastructure support. It also externally provided like suppliers, contractors, all those things. And the support it talks about. Then operation is mainly production process or any operation process where you have to maybe different stages of operations from say batch making. It may be heating process, it may be cutting process, it may be grinding process. Anything, these are all come under operations. So here it talks about the required of HACCP and GMP 22,000. Then performance evaluation, what are the things you are monitoring to control your process and product quality, and how you are conducting the internal audit, and how the management review is performed, how the objectives are set, everything, how the objectives set are moving, what is the status of the objective, if there is any corrective action to require that if it is not achieved. Then finally improvement. Improvement is through various inspection like site visit, Gemba, or it may be a benchmarking from other organization. So there are a lot of scope or areas where you can do improvement, continual improvement. Then what is about PRP? PRP means basic conditions and activities that are necessary with the organization and throughout the food chain. PRP is needed depend on the segment of the food chain. Again, always please note that ISO, they give some guidelines. They don't give any specific limits or the specifications. It always says organization has to divide with a team of management team or involvement of any other people, internal or external people. It should decide on the PRPs. Prerequisite program. Examples of equivalent term, you can say a good manufacturing practice. First and the foremost is the good manufacturing practice, because food FSMS not only deals with the food which is manufactured, which is it also talk about the cultivation, agriculture, animal feed, everything it talks about. So good manufacturing practice, good agricultural practice, good veterinary practice, good hygiene, good production practice, good distribution, good trading practice. Here, all these things, basic principles of GMP, basic requirement of GMP is to prevent contamination, cross contamination, have the documentation of the activities, traceability to the life cycle. So whatever you call it, from various GMPs here listed. So this GMP is the basic word we can adopt everywhere, implement everywhere. Then other called is OPRP in 22,000. It's a combination of control measures to prevent any significant food safety. See, there may be, see, when you do some risk analysis, there may be some hazards may be significant or maybe non-significant, or maybe mitigated without any much investment or without much any botheration or troubles. So based on that, you have to bring all the risk or the hazard to the acceptable level as defined by the FDA, US FDA, or any other food and drug controlling organization or the statutory body of the national or international level. Okay. Now let's come to GMP and HACCP. FSMS does not use the word GMP directly, but it uses the word HACCP, hazard analysis and critical control point, where you will use that process to avoid contamination, cross contamination, to keep the documentation and traceability of all the activities and the improvements. It talks about that products meets food safety, quality and legal requirements. As a food manufacturer, one should have GMP in place. So GMP, quality management system, GMP would have a good HACCP also. So HACCP can be a part of GMP and is a systematic program to assure food safety. There is a, sometimes there is a conflict or the dispute. People say HACCP is bigger than GMP and GMP is bigger than HACCP. Let's not go to that conflict or the dispute. Both are same. They have the same objective of to avoid that contamination and cross contamination, any hazard, I can say. So HACCP is developed by Codex Alimentarius, Food Code by FAO, Food and Agricultural Organization, and who defines 7 principles of HACCP. So these are all the 7 principles of HACCP. One is identify the hazard, first step. Second, critical control measures. Third one is establish critical limits. See, you may be having, when you want to meet a specification, you will have tighter internal standards, which shows that it is a yellow. So when it, red. See, if it comes to that level, it is very dangerous. You cannot achieve green. So there are internal limits you can establish, and also establish monitoring procedures and records. Establish corrective action procedures. It is called corrective action. Now, earlier in ISO standards, there was corrective and preventive action. Now that preventive action word is removed. It is substituted by or dominated by risk assessment. In the planning stage itself, when you do an activity, you do risk assessment, you will assess the impact. Risk assessment itself is another ISO standard is there, and it's a big process, not going in detail into that. Then 6th process is verification procedures, that is counter checking or cross checking or third party audits, internal audit or external audit, whatever it is. Then record keeping. So this is about the HACCP process, and there is a video on HACCP process. Let's look into that. So how to after the video, I will go to the one called decision tree in HACCP Pro. Okay. Is there any hazard with this raw material? See, first of all, decision tree. This is called decision tree. Let's look at the raw material. Is there a hazard with this raw material? If it is yes, then are you customer going to process this hazard out of this product? If it is yes, is there any cross contamination risk to the quality to other? This decision tree for the control critical control point. So when you say yes or no, it's a you can decide that is whether it's a CCP or not CCP. If it is a CCP, you have to establish the controls and keep monitoring it and achieve at a consistency level of that control. So this is what about decision tree, and this is a big process. Actually, I will not be going in detail into this. Okay, now finally this GMP and HACCP. If there is an effective GMP, HACCP will be stronger and you will get the safer food. And what is HACCP? It is a minimum mandatory required to start with to have safer food without any hazards. So this is the link between GMP and HACCP. Okay. Now let's come to the another important topic of this GMP in the ISO. ISO 15378. This is 2017 version. It is QMS plus GMP for primary packaging materials for medicinal products. So what are the packaging materials for medicinal products? The first one is the where capsules, tablets are packed with that aluminum or shining materials, and also plastic this thing. Second one is LDPE. It is mostly LDPE packages, pouches. You can see the rolls where it is packed and where the bags and from the made. And third one is plastic containers. It may be any ointments, or it may be any nasal spray, or it may be any ear solution or optical. For the eye solution for the eyes and everything. That is one category. And coming to that here, glass containers. So this is called vial. Small bottles are called vials in glass, and these are all called ampules. That red one you can see here. This is an ampule, and glass syringes. Syringes, and these are all called cartridges, dental cartridges and all. So there are 4 types of glass containers. One is ampules, vials, syringes, and cartridges. And in the GMP, the closure system is also important. You will use rubber, you will use aluminum, or you may plastic. It is called CCS, container closure system. So all these which are coming directly in contact with the medicine or the drug has to have the GMP in force to have a customer rather and the consumer. So this 15378 identifies GMP and a specific requirement for a quality management system. Again, this QMS and GMP is go hand in hand and parallelly for the primary packaging material. Suppose if you implement GMP principles in production and all stages of your manufacture of primary packaging material, it is of great importance for the patient safety. If you look at any companies manufacturing like Short, SGD and all glass containers, and also Novex plastic and all, Dr. Pack and all, they have clean rooms, they have GMP practices 50378 certification with them, and also 13485 applicable to the particular material. So this GMP is very important for the primary packaging material. So what application of GMP in pharma packaging materials helps to ensure that these materials meet the needs and requirements of the pharmaceutical industry. Sir, one point here I want to tell. If you want to register yourself or connected with the US FDA, there is a one process called DMF, that Drug Master File, where you have to register yourself. GMP does, as such, FDA does not certify your product, but it approves. You have to register to have international tradings and all. Here, if any customer, any of your pharmaceutical customer or the major customer asks US FDA to come to inspection for yours, though you may meet all the quality specifications, I mean, whether it's a dimension, whether it's a physical, chemical, all the composition, everything you make. But if your GMP is not complying as per the US FDA, then they will issue warning notice. You cannot supply, and it may leads to a lot of other consequences also. Then let's go to 13485, medical devices. So what is a medical device? Basically, it is an apparatus or an implementation or a machine or an appliance or an implant or even a reagent, uh, software, it may be material or any other related article intended by the manufacturer to be used. See here, there are various purposes: diagnosis, prevention, monitoring, treatment, and alleviation. These words are directly from the ISO 13485 standards. Then diagnosis, monitoring, treatment, then supporting, sustaining life, control of consumption, disinfection of medical devices. So all these things are classified as known as medical devices. Now look at more about the medical devices. So there are different classes of medical devices: class 1, class 2A, class 2B, and class 3. Based on its risk, you look at this graph, there is a high risk, low risk product. The wheelchair and other things are low risk, like these bags, IV bags and other things. If you look at the next diagnostic instrument, then implants, so many things comes. So class 3 is the high risk, which goes to directly to the function of a body or something like that. And if you look at medical devices market in US, in 225, it is around 602 billion US dollars is projected for the medical devices. And there are many medical device manufacturers companies around the world, like Philips, BD, Baxter, and many, even Siemens. So these are all the companies which are highly known companies to manufacture the medical devices. There are many Indian companies also, like Nipro. It's a Japanese company, of course, but operating in a big scale. And the government has announced the establishment of 4 medical, parks. One at Cuttack. So there are 4 medical devices park are to be established in future. Maybe in 21, the activities already started, and 21 it is coming up in a big way. And this 13485 quality systems, FDA, that is 21 CF for part 820 talks about the quality system requirements, but in it they say all the aspects of GMP is included in that. So in contrast to that, it is mentioned that 13485 2016 FDA 21 CF for part 820. It is heading is quality system requirements, but it's all about talks about GMP. Is the law for medical device companies manufacturing and selling products in the US market. So that is why is it statutory and regulatory. Otherwise, a medical device company focused on US market have a QMS in place that must meet FDA 21 GMP requirements, that is 820 requirements, which talks about GMP in medical devices. And 485 standard again specifies by QMS that can be used, any organization can use it in one or more stages to the life cycle. That means, for example, pacemaker in the heart life cycle, and it is continuously functioning. So what is its life cycle? Everything has to have the design and development, production, storage, distribution, installation, everywhere. The quality of the GMP system has to be in part and parcel or in inbuilt system for the medical devices. And these requirements can be extended to your external parties. For example, raw materials. For example, if you are manufacturing a plastic component, which is a medical device, like a nasal spray, or you need those nasal ophthalmic drops and all, there you are getting the raw materials from any other company where they have to have their GMP along with the product quality. So in sterilization process is also required for all the medical devices, and they also have to follow the GMP. Already there was a session on sterilization by Madhumita 2 weeks ago, and that was a very good presentation regarding the sterilization is concerned, where medical devices was also discussed. and supplier or external party can voluntarily choose to confirm the requirements of this international standard. It need not have a certification, but if your customer or the consumer insists that he should be in, USFDA approved, then you have to have all the GMP like record maintenance, then all other conditions which is in the GMP. So several jurisdictions have regulatory requirements for the application of quality management system. Here, as the standard itself speaks, for it is a QMS requirement for regulatory processes. It identifies all regulatory aspects like informing about a complaint to the regulator body or any rejection, product recall has to be in communication in conjunction with the regulatory authorities. So reporting like the product issues to regulatory authorities adds this requirement, and this is covered in FDA regulations and 21 for CFR part 803 medical device reporting. So that's how USFDA GMP is connected. In February 12, 2020, there was a news in Times of India that medical devices will be treated as drugs, and this is also internationally announced. That means medical device GMP as per USFDA 21 CFR is mandatory. So companies will now have to seek approval from drug controller to manufacture, import or sell any medical devices. They will have to follow other norms and regulations applicable under the law, FDA or local FDA, whatever it is. And ISO 14, only one slide about this, clean room standards. As per ISO, it is 14464. It is about the particulate contents in the clean room. It is called various classes, ISO classes, ISO 1 to 9. Normally for the primary packaging material, they use 7 and 8. And for drug this thing, it is up to ISO 7 and 8 are commonly used for drug applications. For food, I'm not very sure which class they use. It may be 6, 7 and 8 based on the organization's activity or the product. Here important is the filter, which we call the HEPA filter and HVAC systems. In the clean room, there are two important things. One is HEPA and HVAC. HEPA is nothing but high efficiency particulate air. So there will be measures up to 0.3 micron, it may be 0.5 micron based on the application or the appropriate conditions. And HVAC is heating, ventilation and air conditioning system. These two go hand in hand for the clean room ISO standards. There are other related standards of 14464 also. We have to look into that in general. So that is about the ISO standards. Next, I will be going into the 21 CFR USFDA. I think we have what we cleared in the first session was about the general aspects of our guidelines of about GMP. What is its what is GMP? What is its purpose? What it looks at? What are the requirements of GMP? Then we standard descriptions about for the food safety management system on the primary packaging system where GMP is involved. That is ISO 22000 we discussed. We discussed ISO 15378. We also discussed about 13485. Now let's go to this USFDA CFR 21. CFR means Code of Federal Regulation. That is 21 CFR. Sorry, this USFDA 21 CFR they call it. There is a part 210 and 211 which talked about CGMP. So here there is a one letter C is there. CGMP. What is CGMP? It is current good manufacturing practice. There should be, first of all, there should be no confusion about the GMP and CGMP. Both are same. The purpose of putting that C is that people using GMP practices have to be aware of the the latest version of GMP guidelines by who are USFDA. So that's the reason or that is the objective or the purpose of introducing that letter CGMP. I mean that C. Now where this is applicable, parts 210 and 2117 is regulations applicable to formulations and drugs. There is active pharma ingredients. API is a raw material for formulations and drugs. These two are industries. Some industries may have in the same campus formulation steps and also API. Otherwise, API is a different manufacturing unit. They get all the required materials, the products of API manufacturing will come to pharma companies like Arvindo Pharma or Cipla, Lupin, or whatever it is. Then primary packaging materials. Primary packaging materials, they will be requiring 15378 definitely. If it should be a pharma grade, it may be plastic. For example, in India, plastic is Novex in Gujarat. They are ISO 15378 certified. Dr. Pack India in Bangalore, they are ISO 15378 certified. Like Shot Glass and SGD Pharma India in the glass, they are all certified with 15378, where the pharma expects the implementation of GMP in lines with this CFR 21 CFR 210 and 211. And it's also applicable for medical devices. Even though medical devices industry 13485, it has to cover all the aspects of 210, 211 as well as part 820, which I discussed before. And food and beverage, normally 22,000 FSMS. So GMP can be PRP or OPRP, that is prerequisite program or operational prerequisite program. So this is how US FDA, 21 CFR and ISO standards are connected. So part 210 of 21 CFR talks about current good manufacturing practice, that is CGMP, in manufacturing, processing, packaging, or holding of drugs. It's a general introduction like or scope like. It talks about the status of current good manufacturing practice regulations. So the latest one is in the year, if I remember, it is in 2001 or 2008. I will come to that exactly later. And then applicability of good manufacturing practice regulations, which are all the sectors, which are all the fields this 210 to 211 are applicable. And then definitions, terms and definitions, like drugs, what is corrective action, what is product recall, what is formulation. So many related to pharma manufacturing or drugs manufacturing is mentioned this in 21 CFR. This does not really talk much about the food here. It's about medicines. So part 2111 is divided into 11 subsections, 11 subparts from A to K. So subpart A, it is a general provision which talked about the scope and definitions. Then part B, organization and personnel. Any organization manufacturing, it may be a biotech company, it may be a pharmaceutical company, large scale, small scale, or various different products. So in that, responsibility of the quality control unit. Here, that time they have mentioned as quality control unit. It is basically the quality, which comprises of quality control, quality assurance, and quality operations, as well as regulatory. So responsibilities of quality assurance department in general, I can say, who are responsible for the implementation of the GMP system in an organization. Then personal qualification, that is competence, which is covered in ISO also, like latest in this competence, that the person has to be fit, qualified, and well trained, or having knowledge to perform the activity. And personal responsibilities and authorities. Here, many people come to the work, and even after 1 year, if you ask them, what are you doing? I don't know what is my responsibility, or what is my authority, or what is my role. Whatever the management or my supervisor is telling, I'm doing it. So this is not in the case of GMP. Yeah, GMP, he has to have the minimum of 80% knowledge for the requirement. Maybe higher knowledge with respect to other than 20% may be required specifically to some specific areas. Then consultants. Consultants may be trainers. They may be equipment suppliers. There may be annual maintenance contractors or any other consultants for the clean room or installation of the machine center. They have to be well qualified. They have to be scrutinized before engaging them in our organization. Subpart C, talking about the buildings and facilities. Here, design and construction to ensure that smooth flow of each process. That is receiving the raw materials, storage of the raw materials, issue of the raw materials, and mixing or the processing of those raw materials. Then actual formation or the production part, I can say. Then package inspection, packaging, labeling, then transport to the warehouse. So then storage, proper storage with all necessary precautions. So this is how the production facility has to be designed, and according to various construction, it may be of concrete, it may be of epoxy, wherever it is solid structures as per the requirement, which should not cause any contamination and cross contamination. Always keep in this mind, there should contamination and cross contamination all the are the things where your design and construction of futures or the process flow is designed. Then lighting, ventilation, air filtration, air heating and cooling. Here it comes to the clean room, HVAC or HEPA filters and all. Heating and cooling, see, in food and pharma, both you need heating as well as cooling, or maybe even freeze drying. There is a process called lyophilization in pharma, where you may make powders into the dry freeze it. So that is some special containers are required. That's another subject. Then plumbing. Plumbing means it is all pipelines, which it may raw metals may come from the this thing, pipelines. Even your gas may come from the pipelines. Liquids may come from the pipelines. Here, plumbing means it's a pipeline work where your flow direction has to be indicated, where it is an inlet or outlet, and color coding of all the lines has to be made. If it is a gas, some like international, there is a color coding internationally prescribed, yellow, green, red, all the crimson color. All these color codes has to be followed for all the pipelines. Then sewage and refuse, all the sewage and refuse. That is, you may have STP, you may have ETP. All these things has to be taken care to have a waste management system in the organization. And there also, because it is a medicinal product, many ingredients which are used in that may cause lot of bad effects, ill effects to the atmosphere or the environment. Here you need to take care of the environmental aspect also, and also occupational health and safety of the people. So that's why this is very important. Buildings and facilities, all these points are concerned. Washing and toilet facilities. Washing means your gowning clothes, your uniforms which are used in food and pharma. What is ambient temperature, what is the dust content in the room, how often they should change. Suppose if they are during the breaks, whether they should change it or not. If they change, how they, all the gowning instruction has to be specified. Toilet facilities. Toilet normally has to be away from the production floor. There should be no, it is not, should not be closer to the finished product or your production part. It should have two doors. And also washing, the lake sanitization, because of the COVID and all, it has become much more strict. So whatever the, let's look at, if I talk about the US FDA inspection, two things they look at. One is the kitchen of that organization. Second is the toilet. These two are looked first. So once they are not satisfied, they may get irritated and you will get unnecessary non-conformities or the observations from the inspection authorities. So maintaining your kitchen and the toilet is one of the foremost aspect in the GMP US FDA inspection, I can say. Then sanitation, how you are sanitizing. Sorry, you have to use only specified chemicals which is not hazardous either to the product or to the human people or even to the machines. Some machines or the machine parts may get reacted with some sanitizers because of the composition. So all these things has to be kept in mind, and proper maintenance, timely maintenance with a preventive maintenance and calendar. There should be a preventive maintenance, whether it's a filter, whether it's a plaster, whether it is a whitewashing, all those things, even dusting of the pipelines, all has to shine. So that's of the maintenance. The equipment design, size and location, a movement, access to the equipment. For example, today you are installing a machine with a capacity of say 10 tons in a today you are doing 10 and you are leaving it. When it comes to your demand, market demand goes higher, it produces 30 tons and you don't have even the space to arrange the conveyor belt or adjust the speed of the conveyor belt or install additional packing people and equipment on the. So this is very important: installation of equipment, access control, adequate space, then also cleaning and maintenance work, automatic, mechanical or electronic equipment, whatever it may be, and mainly filters. Filters, this is air and air control or environmental control in food drug manufacture. Then control of components and drug product containers. Container means drug product container means it's primary packaging material. It's very clear. That's why I discussed this before coming into this 21 CFR. It's a receipt and storage of untested components, drug product containers and closures like plastic pouches, ampules, vials, or even those companies who are manufacturing the primary packaging materials also should take care of their packing materials like cardboard box or LDP sheets or packets or something like that. Then testing and approval or rejection of components, drug product containers and closures. So here incoming inspection is very important. The segregation, identification, segregation issue has to be very clearly defined with color coding labels. Maybe due for inspection with yellow, green for this thing, rejected for red, but rejected component should be moved to a different place where it has to be locked. Once it is rejected, it cannot stay there for a longer time looking at the label. Nobody will understand, look at the label while taking the material. Anybody just can instruct and come do that. So here, maintenance of incoming material with proper labeling, proper inspection status is very, very important here. Then only use of approved components while issuing. The store should be aware that it is approved and it has to be the. And always incoming inspection may be internal test certificate or supplier's supply certificate. So all these are important to check with. They should have a checklist. And anything here, the importance is that any vehicle bringing into your materials into your premises, they have to be inspected. Whether that vehicle was cleaned before or not, they have to bring those documents. Whether they have they carried some fertilizer and they are putting another your packaging material into that, or they carry some beauty materials like hair and other things, and they are loaded with the packing material. And if you open the packing material, a lot of hairs present in that, or cow dung, possible, anything is possible. So incoming inspection and its vehicle is very, very important. Similarly for the finished product, inspection of vehicles. Then rejected products must be kept in lock and key always, whether it is in the incoming stage or even in the process stage. So to make the analysis and to ensure that there will be no mix up of bad product or defective product in your supply. Then production process control, always written procedures and deviations. So written procedures and deviations has to be there in every process. Here they may have mentioned only for this production process, but it's generally understood in GMP. All the activity has to be GMP oriented, right from the raw material to the finished product and to the distribution. And what are the charging components? Means APIs. For example, you are receiving APIs, active pharma ingredient, that has to be stored in proper recommended conditions. All APIs cannot be stored in room condition. Some may have to be stored in 27 degrees, some may have to be stored at 10 degrees. So all these are has to be taken care of. Then calculation of yield. For example, if you are issuing 10 kg of material, 9 kg out of that is expected as yield, including the rejections or the losses, process losses and all. Suppose if you get 70% production, where the 20% has gone, here analysis is very important, because even if it is a bad quality of 20%, there is a probability of mixing of that bad material with the good material. So that's why calculation of yield is also, this number is also very important to account for. Then equipment identification. This is done in the planning process itself. See what products has to be produced in which machine, and there should be no exchanges. If there is an exchange, very big issue will come up. For example, in pharma, there is something called line clearance in the production process. You are manufacturing for example 10 ml container which goes to that 10 ml. After that, it looks container looks same, but it is for 5 ml. So you have to, there is a checklist before you have to completely stop. You have to remove all the raw materials. You have to remove all the packing materials. You have to remove all the labels. You have to clean the machine. You have to double clean the machine. If somebody has to authorize, okay, cleaning validation has to be done. So this is called line clearance in the case of pharma, and this is also practiced in primary pharma packaging materials like glass, plastic, or paper. So there should be no 100% clearance from one production to batch to the another production batch, even if it is similar material, same material. Okay. So then time limitations on production, control of microbiological contamination wherever it is required. For example, there are two products. One is sterile and non-sterile. Primary packaging materials normally are non-sterile. They claim it as non-sterile, but whereas any pharmaceutical product cannot be, and medical devices cannot be non-sterile. It is always sterile. Medical devices and pharmaceutical drugs and formulations, they are always sterilized. Even when they take the primary packaging material, in their process they will sterilize it, then they use it for filling, then reprocessing. So all these things has to be controls. Reprocessing is a very big hazard or the danger step in a pharmaceutical industry. They have to handle it the maximum care, or it is better to discard sometimes. Then packaging and label control, labeling issuance, packaging and labeling operations, tamper-resistant packing material, overflow, the OTC, that is over-the-counter human drug product inspection status, expiration dating, that is date of expiry. So all these things has to be cleared. And the issue of labels, for example, you are manufacturing 1000 components. If you are issuing 900, it's also not acceptable. If you are issuing 1100, it is also not acceptable, because either some operator will come and say, some packer will say, sir, I have lost the label, I don't know where it is gone. So the label printer will issue another 10 labels without recording. Then comes to the inventory. When inventory is checked, there is a missing of 10 labels. Where it has gone? By mistake, it might have gone into the, knowingly as a sabotage, or unknowingly it has gone to the another, has been sticked onto the another product. So these are all the things which matters to the cross contamination issues. So issue of label and recording of issue of labels is very, very important. And discarding the non-used within no time is again important. I will say, okay, sorry, sometimes I use Hindi because this has come, I can destroy it later. No, this is not all acceptable. All the GMP, USFDA, all will look into all these aspects, labeling and packaging and labeling. Then holding and distribution, this is nothing but warehousing, preservation of your product. Here, humidity, temperature, then pest control is very important here in warehousing and distribution. Pest control, without pest control, nothing in it. Then stacking system, you have to define, and what are the equipments you are using. So all these are also really taken care in this subpart. Then laboratory controls, of course, there are two things. You can have the laboratory controls according to GLP, in general GLP, or LIMS, laboratory information management system with analytics and all. So whatever is suitable, either hardware or software, has to be done. This testing and release for distribution, that is packing. Distribution, not only for distribution, even in the packing stage, laboratory has to test and clear it for packaging. After packaging to the warehouse, it has to clear. Then from the warehouse also, there will be PDI, pre-dispatch inspection, which is called PDI, pre-dispatch inspection are there. Of course, here there may be sampling, there may not be sampling. Just look at the label and the whole lot. You pick random samples, look at the label, whether they are doing it, and check other from your software system whether this is the FIFO. For example, you are dispatching some materials to the customer which is manufactured in August, but the same product is available from the month of June and September, maybe. So whatever, so it has to be FIFO. It has to be for July, manufactured in July, has to be dispatched first, not in manufactured in June, September or November, like that. So first in, first out is very, very important as far as the laboratory inspection is concerned, and also warehouse operation is concerned. And last one, laboratory animals and penicillin. This I am not talking about because high level this. Then records and reports. Yeah, please.
Surya, you want to tell? Please go ahead and complete.
Yeah, records and reports, general requirements, equipment cleaning and use log. See, any operation, any operational equipment, testing equipment, or the measurement equipment in the laboratory has to have operational log. Even if starting from a weighing balance or a polariscope or a atomic absorption spectrometer or a chromatography meter, lithography, all these things, sorry, not lithography, CLP, all these equipments have to have the operation log. It may be automatic, it may be manual. So based on the company's facility available. Then master production and control records, batch production records. See, if you go to a pharma, you will see that there is a bunch of about 20 to 30 papers stage wise. From one stage, from raw material issue, receive stage has to be clear for issue, then it has to clear for mixing, then it has to clear for production, then for quality control, then for final SQC. So many things are there. Each stage, the document has to be accompanied until it goes to the warehouse and dispatch. So even the dispatch has to refer to these records and then only dispatch if it is a complaint in all respect. And finally, the complaint, this here in this J, there's a complaint files, customer complaint. It may be internal complaint also sometimes because of the deterioration of the product or the damage of the product or any other, loss of the product. Support returned and salvaged drug products. Here, this is called product recall. Product recall can be of two types. One is due to the complaint, you have supplied a material, and in the incoming inspection of the customer at the customer's place, they found something defective, so that may be returned. Or you have already supplied one part of a batch to a customer, and the same batch is running here, and you find some non-conformity here. So what you have to do, you have to go until where this batch material is dispatched, whether it is in the final inspection stage, whether it is in the transit, or already supplied to the customer's warehouse, or until this place you have to go and inspect. And this is a legal and statutory requirement in all the countries. Product recall is a big issue, and that has to be handled with high profile and highly knowledgeable and highly proficient people. Product recall. Then, so these are all the systems which who has to ensure this. Of course, quality assurance, normally everybody is responsible for quality assurance in a pharma and food company. System establishment, training and all, what quality assurance will do? They develop documentation system, how it is controlled, how it is distributed, whether it's a hard or soft version, how long it is retained, how it is retrieved, how it is destructed. In control of records, again hard or soft, all the documents and records had to be written, approved, and latest version of documents must be available in each department of the activity or workstation. So it may be documents may be SOP, that is standard operating procedure, STP is standard testing procedure, WO is I is work instruction, CL is checklist, PNC is plan and calendar, then protocols like validation protocols or qualification protocols. And there are formats for record. Even records for entering the data will be issued on daily basis. So this is the stringent control which is practiced even in our primary packaging. Now imagine this in a formulation or pharma, core pharma industries. Risk management, every activity or every procedure, even procedure, writing a procedure needs risk management, risk assessment, this thing. Who are affected? What is the corrective action? Who are all to be involved in framing a procedure? Cross-functional team, again talking about. Then comes to change management. Change management also involves risk management. Deviation management, here also risk management. OOS investigations, here also risk management. So risk management, it is a Q in pharma terms. Nowadays they call it as QRM, quality risk management, in all stages of process or in all types of activities. Then this controlled samples management. So you have to have controlled samples in the intended condition. You have to store it. For example, 10 samples, 20 samples based on the bunch of product you have manufactured or the lot of product you have manufactured. You have to keep until its shelf life, that is until it reaches to the customer. Maybe you can define 10 years, 12 years, 15 years or 8 years as per the product. So control samples again very important. Qualification and validation of equipment, it's the responsibility of the quality assurance. Pest control, GMP training to all employees on roll and off roll. It's not only related to the persons who are working in operations or maintenance, even HR department, because they are the one who will ensure the entry of the employees in the gate with proper. They will have to check the nails. For example, in many places, security will check nails. Even they will ask whether you have taken bath today, health and hygiene. So this is the level of controls which pharma companies has, or GMP demands rather. And then they have to be responsible for product recall, customer complaint, self-inspection. In pharma companies, they call internal audit as a self-inspection. And then customer audits, they have to coordinate the customer audits, supplier qualification. In any supplier, they have to be qualified, they have to be audited, they have to be assessed, they have to be given notices in case of rejection. You may have sudden emergency audits, you may have to plan, you may have to dash in case of critical quality failures of your product or at any stage. So these are all the functions of the quality assurance in the rolling GMP. Now, all said and done is fine. So if you are a well GMP managed company, you sustain, you will grow, people will be safe. So what are the consequences of non-compliance of GMP? So it is a non-compliance as observed by you, or it happens by accident or incident, or it is due to the audit by internal or external parties. So if you look at the US FDA, it will be issue of Form 483 or warning letter by FDA. So that's the first and foremost non-compliance of GMP consequences. And you might have the people who are maybe reading in newspapers that some company is blacklisted by US FDA. They have issued warning like Ranbaxy, Lupin. I am just randomly naming. They may not be exactly received a warning letter, or more. They might have received more what they deserve or something like that. An FDA 483 observation is a notice that highlights potential regulatory problems, while a warning letter is an escalation of this notice. For both of this, you need to respond in writing within 15 days of receiving both a 483 or a warning letter. So this is the very, very critical, crucial and high risk aspect of receiving a 483 or a warning letter by FDA if you are non-compliant with GMP practices as defined by you, or required that product, or required by FDA. So all these things have to be considered in this thing. Then what it can lead to, hit to your reputation of your organization, loss of customer confidence, increased product recalls. See, you manufacture product worth 1 million, and a product recall will cost you 10 million. I'm sure I have practically experienced this. Product recall costs you 10 times than your, at least 10 times than your product, a sales cost, I can say. Then license cancellations. There have been cases in India. Accusations of fraud. There are criminal, accusations of fraud also. There are cases, practical cases. I have a lot of case studies. I will not be going detail into that. Only few I will check. See, for example, top 10, 12 GMP violations observed in Apotex, Hild Dermaceuticals, Lupin, Bayer, Cambridge, Genzyme. So in these companies, there are GMP violations. There are examples. I have not hyperlinked here because it's a big subject running into pages. So let us say, what are the GMP observation by FDA in the year 2018? You look at non-compliance. So QC procedures, 208 cases. Lab controls, 127 cases. Like this investigation of discrimination, discrepancy here, production procedures, cleaning, maintenance, formula control, maintenance records, production controls, performance controls, ineffective testing, unsuitable equipment. So all these non-compliances of GMP costs a company a lot and lot by money as well as time, as well also manpower. So this we have to look into that, and this is shrunk into again very precise this thing here. If you look at, there are about 12 categories. Even if you look at combining SOP and record control, it is 429 controls. That means operation controls, basically, I can say. 322 cases, maintenance, testing, 137 investigations. That means investigation of OOS, investigation of customer complaint, investigation of machine breakdowns, so many things. And equipment, regarding the equipment, it may be validation, that is a design qualification, DQ, IQ, OQ and PQ. So all these things have not been carried according to the protocol. For example, validation, if you are manufacturing a product of from 1 ml to 100 ml, you have to validate it to say 5 ml, 50 ml and 80 ml. So this bracketing and all have to do it. If they have not done, or some companies may need specific validation for the specific product of their requirement. So here it may come to equipment qualification or validation. Now again, some more pharmaceuticals which have received GMP violations: Jerome Stevens, Ole, Krakow, Pharma Pack, Shanghai Pharmaceutical, Washington Homeopathic. So these details I have. If somebody wants, I can discuss, or later I can do it. I think I come to the end of my talk. So finally I should be grateful. I express my gratitude and I acknowledge today is being a Teacher's Day. I thank Mr. Parmeshwan for giving me an opportunity. And Mother is the first Guru for all. And I thank all Gurus who have been in my educational, in my professional, and in my personal lives, guiding me. You can find Guru at least one point of any one point, whomever you meet, at least you can catch one point him as a Guru. And then I thank my Zanding non-management team. Then SJP means my education institute, SJ Polytechnic, Indian Institute of Ceramics, Adagappa College of Technology, Ceramic Technological Institute in BHL, Vishweshwaraya Institute of Advanced Science and Technology, then Indian Ceramic Society, Karnataka chapter. The companies I have worked: Mysore Lamps, International Glass Industries, Nigeria, Shard Glass India, Baroda, SGD Pharma India, Mehboob Nagar. Then I also work with ISO system certification bodies like TUV, Bureau Veritas, SGS and all other professional organizations, associations, societies, forums where I participated to gain the knowledge, or I presented, or I learning so many things. Then I mentioned one person called Dr. R.G. Shah. He is a doyen of Indian Ceramic Society. He was in Graphite India R&D manager. So I treat him as godfather. So I should not forget him to thank him. In fact, I had sent the link. He could not participate. He wanted to do it. Of course, friends, family, and relatives. Thank you all the participants. Though by name I cannot. I think 12-15 participants today. Giving you a time for this presentation. I know this is a dry subject, but I have tried my best to convey my, points of standards and US FDA on GMP for food and pharma. Hope you have, realized it, and you can contact me for any type of information, consultation, or whatever the requirement appropriately. The best I can do it for you. And finally, one video for 5 minutes on GMP. We can do. So that was the end of the video, sir. I mean, one documentation, one point which has come here, though I missed it to function. Documentation is important. Equally, good documentation practice is important. So that means you have to define which ink you have to use. There should be no white ink, whitener used. There should be no punching of the data. See, they don't. That's why they use plastic protectors. Okay, even if you allow punching, that should not be punched on any recorded data. So these are some good practices, documentation practices, which needs to be done. If you are crossing, you cannot just jumble it, smudge it. So one line, and then you have to sign it. What is the corrected? After correcting it, you have to sign on with the date. So when you have corrected. So these are